For all the definitions, descriptions, and characterizations of leaders, there are only two that matter: effective and ineffective. Willink and Babin. Are you winning? According to Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, the authors of this book, and retired Navy SEAL commanders, this is the only measurement of leadership. Effective leaders accomplish their mission and reach their goals. Ineffective leaders don't. While the authors learned and used the principles of leadership in the Middle East during war times, they have applied them to a wide range of industries since starting their own consulting firm, teaching how this foundation can be applied in both business and life. These lessons are grouped into 3 sections: the war within, the laws of combat, and sustaining victory. The first concept presented in the war within section is that of extreme ownership. Extreme ownership is simple. A leader accepts responsibility both for the outcome and all the events that affect it. Didn't hit your sales goals? It's the leader's fault. A member of your team missed a deadline? It's the leader's fault. Someone underperforming? It's the leader's job to bring them up to par. Extreme ownership requires putting your ego aside and reviewing how you can change and improve to create success for your team. Once this attitude is established, it will trickle down to your team. By holding yourself to an extreme standard, those who follow you will do the same. Speaking of teams, there are no bad ones, only bad leaders. By leading through extreme ownership, Jocko constantly drills home this concept. If you demand a high standard for performance, it's not about what you preach, but what you tolerate. Napoleon Bonaparte was famously quoted saying, "If you build an army of 100 lions and their leader is a dog, in any fight, the lions will die like a dog. But if you build an army of 100 dogs and their leader is a lion, all the dogs will fight as a lion." The next concept is clarity and belief. If a leader does not believe in a job, cause, or mission, they will have a hard time pushing through the challenges that arise. If they have clarity and understand the why, they will be able to communicate the importance to their team. These things are not possible if a leader is in doubt or does not understand the why. And the last facet of the war within is checking the ego. Part of extreme ownership is understanding that no one is perfect. Even a great leader will occasionally make mistakes and needs to be open to constructive criticism, advice, and scrutiny. A great leader will know the difference between confidence, which is needed, and being cocky, which leads to an ego problem. Now, let's move on to the laws of combat. Combat sounds like an aggressive term that is associated with war, but in the business world, it looks like your competition trying to put you out of business. We often see infighting in companies, especially large ones. Marketing is fighting with sales, and neither of them want to help out HR. This is in direct conflict with the first law of combat: cover and move. For teams to be successful, they must support each other, work together, and focus on winning as a team, not individually getting glory. The next 2 laws go together nicely. They are simplicity and prioritize and execute. A simple plan is an easy one to follow. Eliminate complexity and extra steps that complicate plans past the point of need. A simple plan is also easier to prioritize and execute on. If you have a plan with 25 different tasks, it will be hard to prioritize what is important, and the chances of making mistakes in execution skyrocket. A plan with 5 simple tasks is significantly easier to prioritize and execute effectively. To implement this strategy, a leader should follow the following steps. Evaluate the highest priority problem. Lay it out in simple, clear, and concise terms. Develop and determine a solution and seek input. Direct the execution of that solution. Move on to the next higher priority problem. When priorities do shift, a leader must communicate both up and down the chain. And don't let the focus on one priority cause a target fixation. The last law of combat is that of decentralized command. Even the best leaders are not effectively able to manage teams of more than 10 people, and the more stressful the situation, the lower that number is. This means that each leader needs to have a team of 4 to 5 junior leaders to convey the mission, tasks, and goals to their group. It is important that the leader follows the steps for clarity and belief with each junior leader, so they can in turn pass that on to their group. It is the junior leader's responsibility to own their part of the mission, pass critical information, back up the chain, and ask questions to clarify anything that they don't understand. This brings us to the last section, which is sustaining victory. And the first key concept here is that of planning. A leader must have a thorough understanding of the entire mission in hand to prioritize, delegate, and manage a task. To do this, Jocko gives the following planning checklist. Understand and analyze the mission. Consider assets, resources, personnel, and time restraints. Decentralize the power. Identify the best strategy. Ensure key leaders understand the selected plan. Understand the possible outcomes at each stage. Eliminate the possibility of as many risks as possible. Delegate to junior leaders where possible. Keep a close eye on the plan and any new information. Clearly brief all personnel. Allow time for questions and discussions. And once executed, establish a debrief where you discuss the lessons learned and things that could have been done better. Next, leading up and down. We're going to break this into two parts. And the first is leading down. This requires everything that we've already talked about and encompasses extreme ownership. Communicate with your team and accept responsibility for their actions, successes, and especially their failures. Leading up the team regards how well you deal with your superiors. This requires tactful and effective communication with your boss to obtain the information and support needed to complete the mission. Leaders cannot be paralyzed by fear. They often must make decisions in the heat of the moment and under extreme pressure. It is important that you look back and reflect on your choices later, but in the moment you can't hesitate. This is what it means to be decisive amid uncertainty. The last piece of sustaining victory is the concept that discipline equals freedom. When the alarm goes off in the morning, do you get up or do you hit the snooze button? If you have the discipline to get out of bed, you pass. If you are mentally weak in that moment and you stay in bed, then you fail. Each small decision that you make and time that you exercise discipline translates into larger, more significant elements of your life. To end the book, Willink and Babin leave us with the characteristics of a good leader. Confident but not cocky, courageous but not foolhardy, competitive but a gracious loser, attentive to details but not obsessed, strong but must have endurance, a leader and not a follower, humble but not passive, aggressive but not overbearing, quiet but not silent, calm but not robotic, logical but not devoid of emotions, close but not so close with the troops, and most importantly, able to execute extreme ownership. Remember, for all the definitions, descriptions, and characterizations of leaders, there are only two that matter: effective and ineffective. Extreme ownership is the path and the basis for being a good leader. It is also important to realize that leadership is something that can be worked on, analyzed, and constantly improved. Even the best leaders are still not perfect. Thanks for watching. Do you have an idea for a book, saying, or article that you'd like us to animate? Leave your ideas down below, and your idea might be our next video. If you enjoyed what you just watched, hit that thumbs up button down below and like the video. And make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified when we release new animations.